they didn't get as much usage out of the system. Fourth is organizational change. I like this one quote here by Ballard in 2007. He said, implementing the Life Planner system is not simply applying a tool to a project, but changing the way the project team thinks, works, and executes its tasks. And so that's saying that, it's not just going to be, we're not going to just change our processes for this one project. It takes a complete organizational change, transformation to the lean project delivery system. And then fifth is training. A lack of project team understanding is likely the cause of other barriers you pointed out. And so, this training is really key that we'll see later on to getting the team oriented to the system and teach them how to use it. Okay, and so the three main points that I found regarding contractors were that, this is the reasons that contractors are really using the system, how they're kind of seeing it going. The contractors seem to implement the system as a lean tool. So they realize that you have to implement the system in accordance with all the other lean principles. You can't do it by itself. It's got to be, with an organizational change at a lean transformation level. Second, contractors commonly encounter barriers regarding the implementation and utilization of the Life Planner system on projects caused by the lack of understanding of the system. This goes back to the training aspect, where it's key that you train your personnel, and so they'll actually know what they're doing. And that's what contractors kind of reaching out to the education industry, academia, to kind of maybe streamline a process from this highly theoretical Life Planner system to something they can use. And then lastly, contractors, their lack of a tangible framework. That kind of gets back to what I was saying. They're wanting to use the system. They say, okay, we accept it, it's valuable, but we can't understand that 3-inch thick binder of theory on it. We want something that we can say, hey guys, do this on your project. Okay, so my research methodology started out with my objectives, went over to research of existing literature data, and then I had a research technique to do that. Went over to quantitative, qualitative data collections, did that via mixed research methods, and then that led down into my questionnaire survey analysis, which was another research technique. I got some unpublished data, and then I formulated my written report. So from there, our mixed methods research, the way I used qualitative was I evaluated the experiences of contractors implementing the system. Quantitatively, I had a survey, and I analyzed the analytical data they provided, and then that allows for a triangulation of conclusions, kind of giving you a better all-around view of your primary and secondary data, instead of having just all from one source. My objectives were to identify practical solutions to the implementation, understand how contractors implement the system, identify key barriers they encounter, and then investigate possible solutions to those barriers. My research techniques identified were literature review, which is how I got my secondary data. Did this to establish background knowledge and identify the barriers that are known currently in the industry. Secondly, I have my survey questionnaire for my primary data. Did this to identify new barriers that aren't in the literature. And then finally, to gain industry feedback regarding my assumptions in my research, kind of give me some validity on what I was thinking. Survey questions. So I use both descriptive and analytical. And so in my question design, I developed to answer key questions and gather data from objectives. So that's kind of the direction my questions were pointed, was to answer those initial questions I had. My sampling procedure, I identified contractors via the LCI website, and then I sent it out to them, and then I also sent it out to the schools mass emailing list they had at around 250 contractors. My data collection was the anonymous survey via surveymonkey.com, and then I emailed it out to those people as well. Evaluation of results. I did this to kind of validate my assumptions and theories previously stated. It gives credence to conclusions or trends that I drew from the data. So my data analysis was broken down into three main goals. First, I wanted to identify characteristics of majority population on respondents utilizing the Life Planner system. Goal 2 was to identify characteristics of typical projects in which contractors utilize the Life Planner system. Goal 3 was to gain an ordinal ranking of respondents regarding various factors affecting the implementation and utilization processes. So basically that's just saying that I wanted to know who was answering it, what kind of systems they were using it on, and then I wanted to ask them about some other ranking variables that I saw was either helping or hindering the implementation of the system. My goal 1, who's using the system? Let's kind of show some of the results here, and then I'll sum this up. So what I found was, the market segments were commercial, institutional, and industrial, in that order. About 45% were using them on these projects. They really said it doesn't really matter what segment you're using it in, it's a useful system. Average volume, 54% of respondents had an average volume of $100 to $500 million. That's for their company, not the project that they actually use it on. Utilization, 0 to 10% of average annual volumes, and that was 50%. So half of respondents said they're only using it on 0 to 10% of their projects. Goal 2, of what type of projects are they using it on? I asked, is any delivery system best suited for the last planner? Asked things like what type of contract, hard bid or negotiated? What type of projects does it work best on? And what type of volume amounts are you guys using it on? My results for that, delivery system, IPD and all equally important were 38% each. They really said it doesn't matter what delivery system, but it's probably most easiest on an IPD setting, where you've got people that are a little more, you've got an owner that's a little more understanding. Then a contract type was negotiated, and that was 92% said that negotiated projects are going to be more favorable to this. Market segment, and they said it's ideal for all market segments, and that was about 50% of respondents. Contract amount, ideal for all contract amounts, 50%. So they're saying it's not really mattering with small project, big project, whatever, you can use the system. And then goal number 3 was industry response to my implementation questions. And so I asked things like, what's your motivation for using it? Are you implementing it with your lean procedures? Things like that. And so we'll go down here and look at the responses. So this is kind of a best practices for formulation of implementation plans. So, how did you guys, when you were going to implement last planner system, what did you look at? So the first, by a little margin here, is the knowledge of employees. So they kind of asked their employees that had been on projects before, gotten experience from other companies, whatever, how to do this thing. Secondly, they went with consultants. Third, they looked at a literature review. So they studied Glenn Ballard, and Greg Howell's literature. Fourth was project experience, and then collaboration with other firms. Next, we identified corporate level barriers. So I gave the guys some barriers that I found in literature, and I asked them for some input on how to rank those things. They ranked number 1, resistance to change at the corporate level. So people are scared, that you're going to make me do more work. So they found that to be number 1. Second was a lack of buy-in from top management, as Ballard in 2007 article mentioned. Corporate fragmentation, technological barriers, and industry climate. Next, we identified project level barriers. So this is, with the individual construction project. They said that resistance to change, lack of understanding of last planner system, complexity of project, lack of owner architect buy-in, and then lack of project team for those rankings. Practices to overcome barriers. So how did you guys overcome them? Last planner system training, non-implementation based. So that's saying that they trained them what the system was, how it operated, not just how to start the system up. Next, it was integrated delivery with a knowledgeable partner. So if we're doing this as an IPD contract, we've got an architect who's used this or seen it used before, maybe he could instruct us how to use it, or if we're a joint venture. Third, additional resources. Fourth, technology and software. And then fifth, outside consulting. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Thank you.